Hi, it's Dre Griggs of the Obsidian Wisdom. On this Wisdom Wednesday, we'll be discussing the proverb, "Do not let what you cannot do tear from your hands what you can do." So in life, there are going to be challenges, obstacles, things that just come naturally to us, and sometimes there's things that are really difficult for us to do. When you are deciding what you're going to spend your time on, then you want to decide there are things that I'm naturally good at. There are things that come easy to me. There are things that I'm interested in where they may not come easy to me, but I enjoy learning and growing and experiencing and spending enough time on that. It is something that fascinates me. If you find that you're within these certain ranges, then you probably have something that you can pursue. When it comes to deciding like any sort of a long-term strategy, I was Googling and I was trying to figure out the difference between like the paleo diet and the keto diet and deciding whether I would be interested in doing either of them. And a dietitian, what she had said is, if you're trying to decide between these two, choose the one that has the food that you like to eat. Because we're not doing a diet for 1 month or 1 year. We're trying to make a long-term lifestyle change. And if you're going to make a long-term lifestyle change, then you want to choose the one that you enjoy the most. Because that is going to be one of the big key indicators of whether or not you are going to be able to maintain this certain diet for the rest of your life. And I think when you think about most things that way, how often do we spend so much time focusing on the things that we can't do, the things that frustrate us, the things that are very difficult, where we end up losing some of the abilities that we already have, things that do come easy to us, things that people look at us and say, oh, I don't know how you can do that. I really wish that I could do that. We often end up just getting focused and drawn into the things that we're not that great at. And I've seen it put in a meme, and the meme is fantastic. It basically is like got a bunch of different animals, and it's got like a lion and a tiger and like a shark and like a monkey, and then there's like an elephant maybe even, and they're sitting there, and then the teacher kind of comes up and like, okay class, today we're going to measure your ability to climb a tree. And so obviously the shark is looking like, well, what are we going to do here? Like, why are you going to measure that? I can tell you right now, I would fail that. And the truth is, the monkey is looking like, oh, this is like my best day ever. I'm going to be the best tree climber that you've ever seen. And sometimes life is that way, where we're in moments where we're being measured by a standard that just isn't consistent for us. It's not conducive for success for you, things that you're trying to accomplish. Everybody doesn't want the same thing. But if you're in a situation where success is measured against something that maybe you're not the best at, or maybe you have no interest in whatsoever, it can deflate in the sense that we wonder if we have any abilities at all. We start wondering, maybe if I'm bad at this and everybody else is good at this, right? If you're like the only shark in a class full of monkeys and we're talking about climbing a tree, well, you may think that there's something wrong with you. And the truth is, if you are measuring success by how fast we swim in the water, then you would feel completely different than the monkeys. The monkeys in the water would be like, what am I doing out here? This isn't going to work. And the shark in the water would feel the opposite. And it's true with most aspects of life. What is it that interests you? Things that you are passionate about, things that you would do for free, as they say. Share in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. So you don't want to allow something that you're not good at, or at least not the best at, to tear from your hands or ruin your enjoyment of things that you are good at, things that you do enjoy doing, things that people find beneficial. So when you're looking at your life, I would encourage everyone, just take out a piece of paper, write down, 5 things that maybe the last 5 successes that you've had. Just write them down. And then write down 5 things that brought a smile to your face and see what they have in common. And maybe ask like your parents or some friends from like a while ago, what were things that reminded you of me? Things that you thought I was really good at, and things that maybe you forgot that you used to do them. So my kids have helped me in that situation, because there are things that I did when I was a kid that I've just sort of kind of let go as I got older, right? I was growing up. But then when I had my kids and I watched them, I was like, oh my gosh, I used to draw a bunch. Oh, wow. I used to love reading like graphic novels and comic books. Oh, wow. Like your kids do things and you're like, that used to be me. Or you talk to friends from like high school or college or something, and they're like, when I think of you, this is the word that always comes to my mind. And it may have been enough time where you're like, wow, that is true, that used to be something that I held on to and was pretty good at. And I just kind of let it go over time. Whether that was environment, you just hung out with different people, so you have different interests, or whether that was something that happened where you're just like, okay, maybe this isn't meant for me. It doesn't really change the fact that you'll be learning and be reminded a lot about some things that you're really good at, things that you enjoy doing. And so as you start finding these things, you may realize that along the way, the world has convinced you that success looks one way and you have to spend your time working on that. And we often do like SWOT analysis, and they talk about like your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. And more times than not, the focus ends up being on like the weaknesses and the threats and the opportunities, things that we're not maybe the greatest at. Instead, I've heard it put this way, and I think it's really good. Instead of asking, what can I learn? Ask, who can I get to do it? Because we're not all going to be great at everything, and nor should you spend a significant amount of your time learning how to be mediocre at something that you could pay someone else to be an expert at, someone that enjoys doing it. And then it frees you up to do what you want to do. You find a lot of CEOs go through this where they wear all the hats when they start the company, but they're generally really creative people. They saw a problem and they wanted to create a solution, and that creativity is what drives them. Well, when you keep growing your company, at some point, you end up in a lot of meetings with a lot of questions being asked. You're just looking at numbers and data, and people are asking for these answers. And a lot of CEOs, they end up stepping down as a CEO and just being like maybe the chairman. The chairman has the flexibility to focus on the creativity in the company, while the CEO can still handle the day-to-day operations and the meetings and all that other stuff. And then you can get back to the flow of what matters to you most. That is also true with a lot of aspects of our life. As we grow and as we take on new experiences and new challenges, we sometimes end up forgetting the love that brought us in the first place. And if you ever have a moment to just kind of take a deep breath and look and say, okay, this is the path that we've traveled. And how far am I from the reason I got into this? And as you guys already know, when I talk about the Wisdometric framework, I always talk about it in 3 phases. You have the knowledge, which is, look, just the information you can get. You can go Google knowledge. You can ask me. I can tell you what it is. And then you would have that information. But then is understanding. What are you going to do with that information? Why are you motivated by this? What is it that drives you? What passion are you trying to fulfill? What does happiness look like? What would you be willing to sacrifice, and what would you not be willing to sacrifice? And then the 3rd phase is our wisdom. Our wisdom is our ability to multiply our efforts. And so if you think of it just purely in finance, knowledge is telling you how to make money, understanding is telling you how to keep money, and wisdom is telling you how to multiply your money. And so you want to be able to continually grow in these 3 aspects. So when you're talking about the things that you can't do and the things that you can do, that is generally going to be separated from your understanding. Knowledge is your ability to say, you know what, I can't do this, and I can find a YouTube video and they can show me how to do this, which is fine if that's something that you're driven by. But you'll find that, and it mentions even in scripture, where love is the only thing that doesn't fade. It's the only motivation that can last forever. If you're doing it for any other reason, recognition, even envy or spite, even bad emotions, they all fade. At some point, envy and jealousy and rage, it just gets tiring. The only reason that you can truly maintain forever is love. Love is something that doesn't die away. So if you find things that love, that passion, that inner love, then that's something that you should hold on to, because that journey, as difficult as it's going to be, is not going to be something that is going to deter you, because you're driven by more than just the little things. And so when you do that, keep in mind, things will be tough along the way. If it's something that maybe you want to give up on, I wouldn't immediately give up, but I would note it. I'd be like, what, today wasn't a good day. I didn't feel really good about it. I thought about changing the course. But if you wake up the next day or maybe the next week, or if you think about it from the best moment and you were like, at the best moment, everything was great, I would probably hold on to it. I find that in the worst times, we would get rid of almost anything. But in the best times, some things will still feel empty. If it feels empty in the best of times, then you know that you're ready to move on to something else. And so I would say that. Usually make those decisions from the best situation. If you have any additional questions about retirement planning, you guys know I'm always here for you. I'll answer those questions. You can message me directly or you can contact me. Just go to obsidianwisdom.com and I'm here for you. I'll make the videos. We'll go over the information. If you have any thoughts or comments, share them in the comments below. Until next time, Wisdomites, remember, wisdom is asking the right questions to allow yourself to get the right answers. Keep asking those questions and you will keep getting those answers. Continue blessings.